Yeah, I got one of those dropped on me the other day too.
We're
Some good
live.
things.
I know.
Very good things have been happening, but I can't tell you. But I appreciate you guys covering up for me. And soon you'll be able to know more, hopefully, with any luck at all.
Well, you got a haircut. That looks good.
I didn't get a haircut. This is the same haircut I had been before.
It looks
But,
better outside.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, this is I literally had all of my stuff. That's why that's because which is odd because I'm hardly ever outside.
It looks better with camouflage.
I don't quite know what to make of that because I'm never outside. But yeah, because us hockey people, when do we go outside? Why
But
would
it's
we go?
6 degrees Fahrenheit in the east. We should be outside.
That's one of the reasons. The main reason was my studio is an absolute disarray because I had to tear it apart to do something else that I can't talk about yet. But but yes, the whole thing was so I didn't have, all I have on my computer, so that's why I'd be doing it outside. But yes, it is. You're right. It's so beautiful out here. It's crazy. It's just, I mean, this just doesn't make any sense. Obviously, we're spinning towards the sun uncontrollably.
Don't jinx it because this time last year, Western New York was under 7 feet of snow.
Right.
Well, that's how it should be.
I remember that. I returned home to a box.
Remember when General Hospital had that whole thing with the Ice Princess, and they showed all the snow scenes and the buses? They were showing Buffalo, no joke.
Well, what's the name of the city? I forgot.
Port Charles.
Port Charles is based on Buffalo.
Right.
So I've returned home to this box of goodies that were sent to me. So I'm going to open it up. It's hockey stuff. So it'll be fun. I don't know what exactly it is, but we're going to check it out.
Make sure it's not ticking.
It's not ticking. Ooh, I think I know what this is. All right, yeah. This is awesome. Well, first of all,
Your mascot uniform.
no. I've got that in the garage.
Colorado Rockies jersey.
No. First of all, I get this hat. It's funny because before the show we were talking a little about Montreal Canadiens uniforms. So I've been sent a Winter Classic hat. Look at this. It's cool.
Oh, okay.
That's not bad. I like that.
Nice. I like that.
I'm sorry. Have you seen the Canadiens jersey?
I have it right here. So here's one right here. Let's check it out. Hold on, I'm going to model it for everyone. I love it. I think it's amazing.
I love it. Are you
Hold on,
kidding
I'm going
me?
to put it on. You're right back. I can't hear you yet, so hold on.
How dare you say anything? This is a gorgeous, gorgeous jersey.
Really?
This is awesome, man. I can't hear you. Oh, I got. Jeez. I got a Carey Price jersey. Hold on.
No, it's really nice. I really love what they did with it. I actually
I
just
think this
booked
was a
for
present that I
one.
wasn't supposed to open
I will be going to my
from my family.
millionth Winter Classic. I haven't missed one yet.
Yeah, I'm totally. This is awesome. Look at this.
That's great.
I can't hear you guys. I'm plugged. You don't like this jersey, Mike?
No, I don't.
How could you not like this jersey?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's a Montreal Canadiens jersey, so I don't like that in my DNA.
No, to me it's spectacular. I love it.
Yeah, no.
I like the hat even more though.
That is cool.
The hat is great.
Yeah, this is a really great hat.
I can't wait. I just booked. I can't wait. I love the Winter Classic.
I actually like the Bruins ones better.
No.
I will probably vomit being on the same area where Tom Brady resides, but other than that,
No, this is jumping up my level of jerseys that I like. This is really something. It's cool.
no, that's great.
You got this whole Earth thing on the side.
Yep.
It's just
Well, they are. That's
the
accurate.
champions of this planet. They just wanted to make sure you knew which planet.
Yeah, it means the Habs dominate the world, is what they're saying.
Oh, they used to. I mean, they're good this year though.
Yeah, so this is something.
Yeah, somehow the Habs who couldn't score can score this year for all the doubters.
Yes, I'm waiting for reality to set in.
So here I was thinking I was getting some swag sent to me. I do believe I've opened a present that my wife got me for Christmas.
Well, that's really nice.
I think I'm screwed now. So no one say I saw this. I think this is what.
Ah! I love it though. I really think it's great.
Great, I just took a picture of it, Axel.
It's fine, but because I think it's so cool.
I'm totally buying the hat.
I would be wearing this jersey if I was playing hockey right now because this is. I mean, if I was playing goalie, this would be awesome. I would totally be into this.
Well, I wouldn't wear a price. I would get something else, but.
Well, I guess she knows this is my number, so I'm number 31.
Oh, okay.
I guess
That's
that.
your goalie, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was a Valley Lindbergh person, so.
And we know 31's not your age. We get that.
Yeah, thanks, Russ. All right. Anyway, I will take this off to not show any bias during the show.
This is great.
One of you should talk so I'm not undressing in front of everybody. Gosh.
This is fantastic.
All right. That's that.
Your career change into a quick change artist is not going to work.
I'll be back in 1/2 second.
Okay.
There we go. Backdrop. Awesome. Okay.
This show is sponsored by the Montreal Canadiens.
Right. Except no imitations. The hockey center of the universe.
There you go. No, I don't think so. The hockey center of the French-speaking hockey universe.
Something like that.
Something like that.
All right, here we go. So let's get this show on the road. Why don't you say?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And again, thanks for picking up for me while I was gone. And I really have missed doing the show. This is one of the things. This is definitely the thing that I most look forward to during the day. So.
Mike had to do a bag skate the other day, but otherwise it's all right.
All right, cool. All right, so let's get this ready. I just want to get my notes up, which are on my. This is all flying on the seat of my pants because I've got my phone and I'm really, really behind. All right, here we go. Today's date is
Monday the 16th of November.
Thank you, Mike. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, November 16th, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund from the backyard. And you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday in the afternoon. Usually 1 o'clock. Lately it's been very random because of lots of reasons we can't discuss yet, but at some point we will, and it'll be really fun, and you guys will all enjoy it. So anyway, but here we are. Yeah, so we're back. We've made it through another week. I thank so much for you guys filling in last week. And so last week I'm going to call, I think, Russ, you were the first person to mention the Matt Duchene rumors that I saw. I did some research into it, and you were absolutely dead on right with them. And but I think that you should mention another rumor today of some other player who can become Player of the Week, because apparently you're opposite curse that I am, because you mentioned Matt Duchene rumors, and now he is Player of the Week in the NHL.
Right. But I've never said that Matt Zuccarello is going to be traded, and he's a Player of the Week, too.
That's true. It's a good point. But he really picked it up. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say that because James Reimer was the third star of the week, and it was strange that all three of the players named as 3 stars of the week had some connection to the Leafs. And the first one was Duchene because, as we mentioned, Duchene was being scouted heavily last week, and rumors came out after. Russ saw Duchene being scouted, and it maybe amongst them.
Anthony told me he was playing wing, and then it all sort of
fell
from there.
And then we talked about it on Wednesday, and then the following day, Adrian Dater reported it on Bleacher Report, and then the following day, also TSN discussed it. So we were ahead of the curve. Now Duchene plays Toronto tomorrow night, so there was a little bit of a connection there. Zuccarello, I think, he had 7 points on the week, and 3 of them were in a rather entertaining game, although nerve-wracking for me, last night at MSG.
Yeah.
And he scored the winning goal with less than a minute left to go in regulation. Which
that was a fun game.
Yeah, which pleased a certain portion of Maple Leafs Nation.
Well, but they're still in 27th, and they could be rising, so let's not. Let's not be locking in on that last pick just yet.
Let's think positively and thinking negatively.
Although there was definitely an epic, Toscala-esque type goal, wasn't there?
Oh God! I mean that.
And look, it takes a while for me to sort of say that I don't think a goalie can do this or a goalie can do that, but yeah, Bernier at this point has proven to be mentally fragile. There's just no other way to put it. He really is. His team couldn't have, with the guys he has, couldn't have played any better in front of him. Mm-hmm. And they actually could have won that game for sure. What the Rangers forced them to do were just make a few mistakes, and then you let in a bleeder, and even that last goal, and then all of a sudden you give them a win. And that's really what happens.
See, the center ice goal, the step-on goal was bad enough for us, but the Leafs did recover from it. Phaneuf got an almost equally bad goal on Antti Ranta to tie it. and it was 3-3 going into the final minute, and it was a multi-system failure by the Leafs. It was not only
Hey, Panda, come on.
it was not only
That dog's going nuts. Sorry, 1 second. Hold on.
okay.
Okay.
It was not only Morgan Riley giving up the puck along the wall. It was also Nazem Kadri lazily not following Zuccarello to the net when the front of the net was completely wide open, and then Bernier throws a rebound 5 feet out for Zuccarello to scoop up and bury it. I mean, it was a horrific goal, and for the weekend that they played. I mean, they played very well against Vancouver, but they allowed 25 shots in the third period against Vancouver, which is like Randy Carlyle Leafs. That's not Mike Babcock Leafs.
Couple of observations. Yeah. The first one is Phaneuf played like vintage Phaneuf. He killed fast behind the net. He helped set up that scoring chance. He had his own goal, which was a nice shot. All of a sudden, I saw a flash of the old Dion Phaneuf, and so that's something, going down the line, either that'll raise his trade value or just make him worth more to the Leafs. The other thing that my wife and I were laughing at was Mike Babcock trying to hide his cursing behind the sheet. Yeah. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
We were laughing.
He didn't hide his anger very well, because apparently on the first goal,
he had an arm swing.
Oh no, he threw a water bottle 20 feet.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
He threw a water bottle, and then in the post-game remarks, when one of the reporters asked him about Bernier and his game, he basically says, "Well, we're James Reimer starting against Colorado on Tuesday." So he didn't even address Bernier.
Right.
He basically says, you've got to earn your confidence, and right now he isn't playing with confidence. And I mean, I don't think they're saying James Reimer is the starting goaltender, because I think if James Reimer plays terribly against Colorado, that Bernier will be right back in there. But their goaltending situation and the entire team really is in flux right now, because they're not very talented. They're working very well. They're overachieving for the talent level that they have. But to your point, Phaneuf is playing better. I think he's improving his value. Lupul has scored he's got, I think, 5 or 6 goals. He's staying healthy, knock on wood. If he does that, they might be able to move him at the deadline for a team that's looking for scoring. So Babcock is doing an effective job of improving the value of some of the players that they might want to trade. The one I can't grasp onto is Kadri. He's been calling Kadri their best forward all year, and he's got 1 goal on over 70 shots. He's not their best forward.
But here's the thing.
He's third in shots in the NHL right now. You realize this?
Yeah.
Third in shots behind Ovechkin and somebody, but third in shots.
It's the same as Voracek. I mean, look, Voracek had 1,000,000 shots too, and finally had one go in. I don't think Kadri's playing as well as Voracek, but I don't think he's playing badly, and that's what I told you on Twitter. I think he's actually playing pretty well.
He's playing okay, but the blatant tire pumping that is going on with.
No, and that's fine. That's just you got to look past the coach speak a little. You do. But here's the funny thing, and this is the part where I don't think you're looking at it because you want the Leafs to be a certain way. If the Leafs were to play that way every night and had a decent goalie, they'd actually be a decent team. I know you don't want to think about that, but it's true.
Well, no, I mean, and I will grant they have been playing this way for all but 2 games this year. There's only been 2 games that they were really blown out of. The other games have been competitive, but it's not just the goaltending, Russ. I mean,
that one it was.
Yeah, that one it was, but this weekend was an aberration. They scored 4 goals against Vancouver. They scored 3 against the Rangers. Their offensive output is about 2 goals a game. If they don't get great goaltending, they're not going to win. And they've been getting great goaltending out of Reimer. That's the 3rd star of the week. That's the proof of it. But if Reimer is average, which he'll have good streaks, then he'll go back and be average, they'll lose probably 80% of those games. So, I mean, we'll see how it unfolds. But
I guess the question with Reimer is this, right? Because in his career, I mean, from afar at least, it seems as if that every time he has been handed the job as starter, he hasn't been a good goalie. But when he's battling as a backup, he's been very good.
Right.
So we've seen other goalies like that before. it was Tim Thomas for a while, and then Tim Thomas actually got past it and became solid all the time. So it's not impossible. I think Reimer could get past that mental block.
But the other factor here, Ak, and the same thing, and I was exchanging messages with Mike Harrington of the Buffalo News last night regarding Reimer and Bernier, and essentially the Leafs are in the same position that the Sabres were last year with Enroth and with Neuwirth as guys who are not probably number one goaltenders in the NHL but are playing well and are both UFAs, and they traded those guys, and I think that is good. It's going to end up happening with Reimer because they're not going to be able to trade Bernier right now. Bernier has no trade value with another year at $4 million. Reimer, if he continues to play like this, does have trade value, and he's probably not going to re-sign in Toronto unless they offer him a long-term deal, and I don't think there's any way they're offering him a long-term deal. So that's their quandary right now.
I am not convinced that Bernier has no trade value. I mean, I've watched him play and I've seen all this stuff, but I still think that Bernier there's a lot of Bernier fans out there in the NHL. When he was available before, there was a lot of people interested in him.
That was different though. That was because he was behind Quick in a successful organization. They had, look, it's LA's fault that Bernier's not the goalie that I thought he was in juniors, because when they had him play that game in England, he was 18 years old. He had to travel overseas. It was kind of crazy that they even had him in there, and I think that was the only game they had him in there, and then they sent him to the minors. That didn't do him. They did no favors with him in that span of time.
To his defense, Russ, the thing is, he played wonderfully his first season in Toronto. He did. The problem is that the defense and the team in front of him was defensively inept.
Right.
And, it was 40 shots or more every night, and he ended up getting hurt in the last part of the season. And that's when they collapsed down the stretch. Since then, he has not been the same goaltender. He's been mentally and emotionally fragile in goal.
And that's what you see out there. He does have good mechanics.
Yeah.
But it's funny, but he's more robotic than he ever was before.
And Maple Leaf fans will know this reference, and we will as well. This looks like another Alan Bester situation where you had a young, and I think Bernier is a much better prospect than Bester was in his day, but you had a guy who was pummeled for a couple years, facing 40 to 50 shots a night, and at that point, after a couple years of that, he was basically shell-shocked, and I think that's what even now though the Leafs are a better defensive team. It's almost like he almost needs those games where he has 40 shots because it's easier for him to stop multiple shots. When it's down to 25, he's going to tend to give up that bad goal, and he has been doing that.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Let's move on to a team that's playing very well. Let's go the opposite direction. Let's go to the Rangers. I mean, 9 in a row, Russ. I mean, and last night, in dramatic fashion, that's an example of maybe a team winning a game they shouldn't have won last night, and yet they come out still and. I mean, they should win it in terms of who they're playing, but the way they played, they shouldn't have won it.
Right.
Is this the real Rangers?
Well, this worries Ranger fans. They're playing too well, and I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and said, "But they're doing it with smoke and mirrors," and they're really not. But
no, they're not.
But they're not doing it the conventional way. Like the conventional way would be, hey, your best paid player, Rick Nash, would be scoring all the goals. He's not. Instead, it's Lindbergh and Zuccarello and Brassard. Those are the guys that are sort of leading you offensively. So you had that. So that's a little different and a little change for how the Rangers used to be. Now, all of a sudden, last couple of games, you're getting goals out of McDonough. He's got 3 goals in 4 games. He's stepping up into play more, gaining more confidence. So that's really helped. Yandel's played so much better this year now that he's been fitting in, even though he's probably not playing the right kind of minutes yet. Because of the Boyle situation, sort of like he's getting thrown with a new partner probably too often, it's working out. At the end of the day, they force a lot of errors. And so while it doesn't maybe look like they're playing great because, they're taking shots, they're not going in, they're controlling the puck, they're not scoring, but they keep forcing the issue. And that's what they did with the Leafs, and they eventually broke them because you can only make so many mistakes against the Rangers in the game without having to pay for them. And that's really what it boils down because usually, and Ronta was pretty good. He wasn't great. But if Lundqvist is in net, he's got a .955 save percentage in November. He's got like a .949 on the year. He may set the record, the Tim Thomas record. Right. So that puts a lot of pressure against opponents. When you're playing against them and the defense is as good as it is, they think they have to play perfect hockey, and the minute they don't, that falls, and so it's a big mental challenge for a lot of teams to play the Rangers.
Well, let's face up the facts here. This Rangers team was one game away from a Stanley Cup final last year, was in the Stanley Cup finals the year before. So this is not smoke and mirrors. This is a team this is the top team in the East, and
but that's what fans are saying.
Oh yeah, no, I know Rangers fans are definitely, they're afraid of what I'm doing right now, which is giving them the Eklund curse by speaking of them.
But you have to give the Rangers, you have to give Jeff Gorton a little bit of credit here because they bring in Jared Stoll, and I think last night Jared Stoll was a pain in the butt to play against. Him and Kadri were going at it constantly. He was winning faceoffs. They bring in Victor Stahlberg. I think he's fit in fairly well in a depth role. Lindbergh comes up from Hartford, and he's been one of the better rookies in the league. And you look at what the Rangers are doing. Their defense is so solid, and it keeps the opposition forwards out of the scoring zone. They keep them to the outside. They do that wonderfully. And the pace that they push up front, most teams can't keep up. I mean, Chris Kreider had a rush last night where he looked like he was shot out of a cannon, and if he hadn't fumbled the puck as he went by Bernier, it would have been a goal. I mean, the funny thing is that, like Russ said, somebody must have whispered in Rick Nash's ear that it's the playoffs because he's disappeared.
It's an every other year thing with Rick Nash. It's completely predictable. It's every other year throughout his career, right?
Right. Here's the funny thing, though. Alain Vigneault started the year by prodding Lundqvist, by prodding Benoit Allaire. We got to get off to a better start. Your guy, Lundqvist, better get off to a better start. They did, right? And then casually down the line, he has sat certain players, Dan Boyle, even Dominic Moore, who everybody would think gives a great effort every night. I got to tell you, that game for Dominic Moore was a Herculean effort. It was unbelievable. Like what Mike was saying is, for a 35-year-old guy, he was leading the charge in that pace, trying to go past two players to get a goal. The hunger in him has increased 100 times.
Well, he on one Ranger penalty kill, he had a clear-cut breakaway, but he was caught flat-footed, and Komarov caught him. And then 15 seconds later, he again had a breakaway and got caught by Morgan Riley. So, I mean, both times he was even on the penalty kill, he was pressing it with his speed and counterattacking.
So tonight, the Vancouver Canucks have a rookie debuting. Russ, we wanted to talk about it a little bit. Tonight, Hunter
Shinkaruk.
Oh, yeah, good for him.
Playing his first NHL game. What can you tell us about him?
Really fast skater. Point to point was one of the fastest skaters in the draft. He's a really good kid, a quality kid on and off the ice, has a good trigger, can play a two-way game, but really could add a little bit of offensive punch. I don't know if he'll do it right away, but I really like Hunter Shinkaruk, and I think he's waited. Like, they probably could have called him up earlier, and they didn't. And I think that's a good thing. And there's also another kid, remind me to talk about him making his debut also. But I like Shinkaruk. I think he'll help the Vancouver Canucks. And now I think people are starting to see the bigger picture with the Canucks that a few of us were talking about, and then most were not seeing that, hey, they do have some youngsters that could help them. Maybe they're not as bad as we thought they were, or some people. I didn't think they were going to be bad.
No, you were on there. I was definitely, kind of curious as to what they were doing because without knowing about their prospects, what they were doing was incredibly curious. So, but you really did bring up the point that they have they didn't do anything on, on the draft or what is basically the new trade deadline. They did nothing.
Right.
And that was very curious because a lot of teams got better around them. So, but they are definitely there, Mike.
And McCann has stepped up. Virtanen is playing a role. I mean, I saw Vancouver against Toronto on Saturday, and they were playing on the power play. They were playing, a regular shift.
Virtanen's a wrecking ball. I mean,
And Horvat is a very effective player as well. I mean, right now what they're running into, and the reason Shinkaruk is playing is because Brandon Sutter is out, and apparently Alex Burrows is out. So they're not a very deep team, and if they lose guys like that who are top six forwards, it's going to be tough sledding for them. But the other thing that's going on in Vancouver is Ryan Miller. Ryan Miller is a veteran guy, and in Buffalo, sometimes he had a tough time keeping his mouth shut and making negative comments against his own team, and he's been doing that the last week or so. I know he was very critical when they came back to when Vancouver was visiting Buffalo. He was very critical after the game for a giveaway that cost the Canucks a victory. I think Ristolainen scored in the final minute. And in the post-game remarks, I thought he could have been a lot more diplomatic. And honestly, he's a veteran guy. His role is very important to that team making the playoffs, and he should know not to say things like that, because I think it's going to sort of rip apart the esprit de corps of the locker room.
I don't think it's going to rip him apart. He's really a leader on the team. He's had a comeback year, and he's on the back nine of his career. He's not going to get that many chances to make it to the Stanley Cup, and when he sees that his team may have a little bit of a chance, just a little glimmer, he's probably trying to really push them in gear, because let's face it, he's had a hell of a bounce back year.
Yeah, and he's a quirky character, and he's your epitome of your, nuts goalie. That's basically, he is that, and he's very classy, though very very nice to everyone in the media, but he's definitely one of those, obsessive compulsive, line up the tape next to his stall type goalies. And then that's, I think when he gets to this age in his career, he's like, why do I have to be politically correct anymore? I think that's sort of the sense I get. He was really upset about that goal the other night. I heard him talking about the one that was kicked in.
The game against Toronto. I mean, he was railing against the inconsistency of goaltender.
Well, it is an interesting thing, like the whole concept of kicking it in because the guy kicked the puck backwards on the goal. So, is a kicking motion, backwards? Technically, I guess it's not, but if you were in front of me and I said kick the ball to me and you kicked it backwards, that would be kicking the ball to me. So.
See, I thought that the goal should have counted, but then I had read that the call wasn't the goal itself, but the call was that whether the puck had gone over the blue line, whether it was an offside or not. But right. I haven't been able to find clarification of either one, because it was Jannik Hansen who the puck went off of, and it did not look like it was a distinct kicking motion, and he was skating backward away from the crease, so it's not consistent with it being kicked in. But
all these things need to get better defined, right? We're seeing it, now that we're full into video replay.
Yeah. No, we really desperately need it. You're right.
The NFL's making tons of mistakes. They don't even know what a touchdown is anymore. The NHL doesn't know what goalie interference is anymore, and then the other day, Jake Allen literally had his glove in the net when Marco Dano shot, and they called no goal. It's like, how could you call no goal? His more than three-quarters of his glove was across the line.
Right. That's why we need the technology like tennis. But, I mean, Russ, and not to talk about the NFL, but, I mean, that game last night between the Giants and the Patriots, the interception at the end of the game, that didn't count. The touchdown that didn't count from Odell Beckham. I mean, we're getting so particular when it comes to what means a goal, what means a touchdown, what means possession.
Spelled out now. The rule books all need revamping.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, in the NHL, we talked about things that could surprise us, and the things that could happen that we wouldn't have suspected. And I'll tell you one thing that's absolutely shocked me is how many goals are overturned.
Right.
I mean, it's astonishing.
Yeah.
We never. I mean, how many goals? There have been at least half a dozen that offsides goals. I mean, every year when we talk about these, how many times could I remember like handfuls of information, like 2 or 3 over the course of the last 5 years of plays. Oh, that was offsides. It shouldn't have counted as a goal, and yet we've already had 5 offsides overturned.
Well, this is the thing that I think is a product of this new review system that I think really stinks. The Calgary-Washington game went into overtime, and I think it was Monahan scored the winning goal. There was a dispute over an offside. Barry Trotz knew he had nothing to lose. He had never used this timeout, so he figured, why not ask for the review? So you have this 5-minute review that turned out not to be offside, but it's like, what do I have to lose? So we have to sit around for 5 minutes to wait for the stupid replay.
So that I think we actually talked about.
A long
break. We talked about that would be a good play, and I think that has turned into it. And that's kind of a hard thing to play against. I mean, that's something super obvious. They should be able to turn it over quicker than that.
Yeah, because the thing is, if I'm a coach now, at some point in the game when my team is winded, I'm just going to make up a reason to video challenge it, and who cares if I lose?
Thank you. Instead of getting a 30-second timeout, you're getting at least a 2-minute timeout.
Right. Now I can change my lines and put my best line back in there.
Or if they're if you're
Or if they keep the guys on the ice, at least they're fresh.
if it's after an icing or something like that, or you say I thought that puck was in, go review it.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm just shocked. I mean, I really did not expect we'd have this many goals overturned. It's really just, it seems like every night we have a goal overturned. And it's just, to me, that's really a surprising consequence because...
I mean, scoring's down, but yet if we count the amount of goals that are getting taken off the board, it probably wouldn't hurt to count it at all.
But yeah, we're going to talk about making the nets bigger, which I think is asinine. And I heard one hockey insider talk about cameras in the crossbar shooting down toward the goal line. How does that help when it comes to a puck that is covered by a goaltender? It doesn't.
Never see it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't help in that instance. And I don't know why. I mean, we have the technology to make make a puck, make a sound if it goes over the line.
Yep.
Even if it's being, even if it's inside of a box, like we can completely. It's and they're using it in soccer, already. In international soccer, I don't know why we're not using that in hockey. I think all the cameras are, we live in an age where you can make cameras for cheap, really small, good cameras. So there's no reason not to put the cameras there. But I think at the end of the day, we still are going to have the same issues, Mike. You're right.
They're using 20th century technology, and that's the thing. It's like this is a 21st century sport, and they're using 20th century video technology to determine, there are more foolproof ways of determining whether the puck is over the goal line instead of just video. There's more things that you can use.
Oh, I definitely agree. I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's for sure.
I should mention Nick Ritchie's making his debut for Anaheim. Really solid first-round pick. Yeah. And Michael Scarbosa, too. And I think I saw that they're both playing on the second line together, but that was like in practice, so who knows if I read it right. But I'm happy for him. But this does show you the state of the Anaheim Ducks right now, where we thought they were this solid team that was Stanley Cup bound. This is, they're pressing the plunger. They're like, all right, we need something here. We're going to have to go to rookies now and hope they drag us out of this.
Well, it's great you say this because I had a long talk with somebody the other day about this, somebody I really respect.
For the victims of Friday's tragedy.
Oh, we got stuff going on. Sorry.
That's not me.
That wasn't me. It was a video of some sort.
That's really strange. I didn't touch anything. Anyway, and I was talking to somebody about this and about the Ducks and about the way this whole thing plays out, and he said, it's amazing that still, even though we have all these analysts and everybody out there talking, he's like, we can never tell when a team is going to get old. And like that, the point at which they're going to just get old. They said there's often not a subtle decline. He's like, and we often think there's a subtle decline, but there really isn't. Sometimes if not old even, and just if some chemistry is wrong, there's a big drop off immediately. And it's amazing that a team like the Ducks, who really were probably the most picked team to win the Stanley Cup in the preseason.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're starting to bounce back.
Well, I mean, they're still dangerous, but
yeah, but I mean, to your point,
the way that they're going about it now, that's surprising.
I mean, how many people said that Ryan Kessler was a candidate for basically what you just said, being a guy that you wake up one day and all of a sudden he can't move or he's not fast enough. I mean, and the thing is they're sort of committed now to maybe giving Ritchie a long look because they waived I think it was Chris Wagner and he got claimed by Colorado. He was a useful player that they were bringing up and back from the AHL. Now they're going to have to give Ritchie a chance, and he had I think 9 goals in 12 games in the AHL, and he's a 19-year-old. So
he's got a lot of strength. He skates well for a big guy. He's got good hands down low, and he's another one of those guys that's sort of the same as Shinkarik. As a young guy, has leadership abilities in him. Not to say they walk in and all of a sudden they take over the locker room, but they just know how to get guys going, and so. This is good for him, but again, this is surprising the way they're going about it. That's all.
So prepare yourself for many video snippets on Coach's Corner on next Saturday night to see Nick Ritchie banging and crashing, and I'm sure you'll hear the fact that he was drafted 2 picks after William Nylander.
Well, we haven't seen any of Alex DeBrincat yet, right? The American who's leading the OHL in scoring. We're not going to see any of those.
No. That's hilarious. So trouble in Pittsburgh, as if we didn't realize this already. Malkin came out and said some things, Malkin doesn't like the
say them in English, or did somebody translate them?
I think he said him in English.
He said him in English. He said him in broken English, apparently.
Okay, no, that's good for him, though.
Yeah.
Well, apparently he knows how to say this in English. Everything's wrong. We don't play right. We don't play hard. We're mad at each other. So that to me.
And this team is in the playoffs. The season ended today. They're in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I mean they've got. I mean they have enough scoring.
He's been to the cup twice, so he knows what good is,
right?
And he knows what just getting by it.
Right. I mean it's definitely it's a fascinating situation. I mean, I talked to somebody who had a theory, and I'll just throw this out there. I don't know if I agree with it or disagree. I'm still kind of deciding what I think of this theory. He thinks the Penguins got good too fast. That this group this group saw success too early.
Maybe.
That they went to the Stanley Cup Finals really early. In Crosby's career, Malkin's career. Then they lose the Stanley Cup Finals, and they win a Stanley Cup, and they don't really know the kind of effort that needs to be put in on a night-to-night basis to win in the NHL. And that's the theory.
Isn't that the coach's job to remind them?
Yeah.
I mean,
it is.
Critical of Mike Johnston, but I still think it's up in the air whether he's a good NHL coach or not, right?
I think he's the wrong coach. I mean, whether he's the good coach or not, he feels like he's the wrong coach because he doesn't look confident. I mean, for what it's worth, he just does not. There's some coaches like Babcock does look confident. You see him and he's and these players they look for clues. I mean, Hitchcock always looks confident. These guys, they're classic coaches. Julien, confident. I'll say Johnson, and I'll say Hackstall to a degree. Don't look confident. Some of these coaches, they don't have that. They don't put that air of confidence out, and players feed off that.
They do. Players do look at a coach at some point when everything's going wrong. Like, what are we going to do, coach? And the coach has to have the answer.
Yeah, or at least has to be like, this is no big deal. We're getting through this. This is fine.
Right.
Has to not panic. Has to show. The coach is the one who's supposed to have perspective through the whole thing. He's supposed to be like, okay, this is where we are. We could be better, but we're never as bad as we feel we are when we're bad. We're never as good as we are. All those things are supposed to come from the coaches, and in Pittsburgh, they've never had that.
But the one thing it's puzzling, with the offensive weapons that Pittsburgh has, their power play is terrible.
Yeah.
And you would think
it's not great. You're right.
Yeah, you would think with Crosby, with Malkin, with Kessel, with Letang on the point, that they would be scoring goals in droves, and they're really not.
Well, it's really big. If you watch the power play, what it is, I mean, I've watched it a lot lately trying to figure out this exact problem, and what it is that they have so much talent that they feel like they don't have to work hard on the power play.
Well, it's that, and they're a bunch of individualists. They're not.
I mean,
it's like, well, you score. It's not my turn. You score.
I mean, they're passing, and they're sometimes a little bit over self. I mean, they should be a little more selfish at times. So I think that they do overpass the puck, but also they just don't. Even though you have a power play, even though you have all this kind of skill, you still need someone to go into the boards and get the friggin' puck.
Right.
I mean, there's so many instances where the puck's not just on your stick on a power play, where you have to win the puck back, you have to win it and get it back, just no matter what, you have to kick it or scream it or throw it back to the point somehow.
Well,
and that's what they're not willing to do right now.
And I'll make an overgeneralization here, but I really lay the blame for the way the Penguins have decompensated over the last couple of years on Ray Shero and now on Jim Rutherford, because it's possible. People will say, "Oh, you're paying Malkin, you're paying Crosby too much, and that's you're at the cost of some of the other players." You can't have a team if they're making so much money. Well, Chicago seems to have no problem paying Kane and Taves and putting a team around them that's been effective.
But they're kind of unique. I mean, in a way, you could say that Pittsburgh's a little more normal because I mean, what the Hawks have done is really impressive. I mean, it's very unique. I mean, look, they go out and they make these moves, and suddenly they pick up Panarin, out of nowhere.
Right,
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Stan Bowman has done a really good job, but the thing is, I mean, I'm sorry. Jim Rutherford should have never made the deal for Phil Kessel. I understand that the need for Sidney Crosby to have a winger, but if you're going to expend the assets that they were going to expend on a big deal like that, if you were going to trade with Toronto, it would have made more sense to trade for Dion Phaneuf or for another defenseman, because defense is their area of weakness.
Forgetting about Kessel, how about the Brandon Sutter deal? He was their best defensive player.
That's where I'm with you on that. I actually think the Kessel trade. I really think at the end of the day, the Kessel trade, they didn't give up a ton. I mean, for what he's worth, for a guy who's going to give you maybe 30 to 40 goals.
Right.
Is not they didn't give up any major piece from their team. and they got Phil Kessel, which is impressive. I mean, he's definitely the best player in the deal, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, and it was a fair deal for them. It didn't cost them a ton, but what I'm saying is, you use those assets to address your areas of need, and they really didn't do that. And to Russ's point, I mean, they did the same thing with Jordan Stahl. He was 1 year away from being a UFA. They traded him because they probably weren't going to be able to afford him. And now with Letang, with Fleury, with Crosby and Malkin and Kessel, all under long-term deals, they had to trade Brandon Sutter the year before UFA because they couldn't afford him either. So they're causing their own problems.
Something about Letang. In his last 5 games, he's playing anywhere from over 24 minutes to 28 minutes. Now, I see he's got 8 points, but he's not the same, right? This is not the same guy that he was pre-injury, and they're running him into the ground.
That's like using your best china for every dinner.
Yes.
You're going to break him. You're going to break it. You're going to break him. There's no question about it. You cannot play Letang like that.
And Derek Pouliot, who was supposed to make the team, top 10 pick a couple years ago, who they didn't go out and get the defenseman because they thought Pouliot was going to be an anchor on their blue line. He's still in Scranton.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. And that's weird,
I mean, Harrington, who could have been a replacement, but he went in a deal. So
And Harrington's been solid for the Leafs. He's playing 15.
That's the thing. So you traded 2 possible good defensemen. One's a defenseman, one's a player who plays defense and scores a little bit, and then you got a great offensive player, and that's why I looked at Jim Rutherford and said, this isn't like 15 years ago. The league has changed, and what is he going to do? He's going to mortgage more at the deadline. Watch.
And they gave away Dupré to Anaheim for basically nothing.
Well, the Penguins are in that weird spot because, like we said, they're not playing very well, but yet they're in the playoffs. Right. And yet the Eastern Conference is really not that good. So you look at they've got the Rangers are great. The Lightning will eventually be good. The Canadiens are up and down. But at the end of the day, the Penguins still, you're still in. If the Penguins are in the Western Conference, they would have made much different decisions. I really do believe
about that. Not with Rutherford at the helm.
Maybe not, but
he's antiquated. He could be the reason Mario Lemieux wants to sell. Like, he's never said, I don't want to put words in the guy's mouth. Yeah. But I can't believe he's happy with the way these deals have gone down. I just can't.
But I think I think it's the opposite from what I've heard at least. I've heard that it's coming down from the top, that the Penguins still feel like their window is open. So they're acting very much like, and their window is open because of the situation, not because they're a good team. That's what I'm trying. Their window is open. So the problem is, if you treat this team like a team that's windows open, who's like a couple players away from winning a Stanley Cup, then you make the Phil Kessel deal, then you trade Sutter, and you make those deals. But the problem is, the window's open not because of them necessarily, because it's open because the league in general has fallen off in at least the Eastern Conference. So
are they showcasing Daniel Sprong only to trade him because they don't have anything else left to trade? Like, that's what it's coming down to.
You wonder. I know. I mean, and that's and that there's. I think they are really. I think they've reached a desperation point, and I do think that this is a team that you could see a coaching change on this year. I really do. I think there will come a point. Even if they're in the playoffs, I mean, what are they right now? They really aren't. I mean, this isn't a team you can expect to do anything in the playoffs at this point, and they should. They should. I mean, they should be. They and I think the problem is that they have a contending team on offense and a rebuilding team on defense, and they don't know which way they're going.
And since Paul Maurice is not available for his third go-around with Rutherford, the name that – and, I don't think Johnston's going to get fired because they are in a playoff spot right now, but the name that has popped up every once in a while regarding Pittsburgh is old Penguin, old Norris Trophy winner with the Penguins, Randy Carlyle.
Well, he's the kind of coach that they need. In my opinion, that would be a great move.
I can actually see him going there. That one makes more sense than him going back to Anaheim.
Because what happens is he becomes the story, not Crosby, not Malkin. He can take that away from them, which is what they desperately need.
Yeah,
like Johnson's not taking any of this spotlight away from anybody.
Right. But the one thing you have to be concerned about with Carlisle, I mean, him and Kessel got along simply because he let Kessel do whatever he wanted. And
yeah, but I think that these guys. I mean, I think that people they write too much into that kind of stuff. I think you can get past it. Dubinsky's going to get past it, and I mean, people get past these stuff with old coaches. These are professionals. They realize that Carlisle's going to go in there and say, totally different situation. And Kessel to his credit, I don't think it's the same player he was then either. I think Kessel is actually putting in a lot of effort. When I watch the Penguins, he's one of the players who is trying. I really feel like he is actually out there trying to make something happen.
But here's the thing. They're the last bastion for Pittsburgh as far as prospects are their goalies. They've got Matt Murray. They got Tristan Jarry. Jarry's got a .938 save percentage with Scranton.
Yeah.
I like them both a lot. They're going to end up trading one of them, and then, who knows? You should always have two good ones in your system. I told everybody that because you never know when one's going to get injured or whatever. But they're going to go right down to bare bones, and one of them will probably get dealt.
Well, yeah, and the thing and the reason that one of them will get dealt is because Fleury is locked up for 4 more years.
Right.
And you really don't have room right now for a young goaltender coming in and stealing the job because there's $5.5 million reasons why it's not going to happen. And I don't think you're going to be able to get. I mean, you might be able to get value back for Fleury, but I don't think with that big money and a long-term deal, you know how difficult.
You're hoping for.
Right. So
this leads into my blog for today, which should have been up by now, but I'll tease it off now. Is the fact that my blog today was, does it make sense to trade Evgeny Malkin? And I honestly, at the end of the day, think it does. And it's not against Malkin. It's just that this team, I've long felt that Malkin will never be the player he should be in this situation. I think that Malkin. I mean, obviously Malkin has so much trade value. You can get a ton for him if you make. And Rutherford, the one thing I do think, I mean, I disagree a little bit on the Rutherford bashing because I actually do think that if I want to have one GM to make that trade, I'm not opposed to Malkin being the guy to do that. I mean, Rutherford being the guy to make that trade because Rutherford is very good at these kind of trades.
I don't know about that. He's good for getting names back. He's good for getting guys back that are veterans that he knows. I'm not sure he's good for any kind of future value at all.
No, you're right there. He's got to trust his scouts on that kind of stuff. And does he do that? I don't know. That's a good question.
And the one thing, I don't know whether the organization would allow him to trade Malkin simply because they're selling the team. Malkin is a very big asset. And until the sale is done, I can't see them allowing that to happen.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
It depends on what you get back.
It depends on what you get back. And this is not a team that is going to be less valuable because Malkin's not on it.
Let me ask you this basic question, Ek.
Yeah.
So if they trade Evgeny Malkin, are they going to get back like an all-star number 2 defenseman that they need or not?
They have to. They have to get a top 2 all-star defenseman for him.
So as an example, like, and it's not going to be this guy, but like, why would someone trade a guy like that, even if it is Malkin? The only team that I could think of that has any kind of depth like that could do it would be Anaheim and nobody else.
How about Nashville?
Nashville, I guess, is the other one, but Nashville, the problem is they don't really want to spend Malkin money. They already did it with Weber. Weber would have to go in the deal, and I'm not sure you can sell Malkin to their fan base. That's the problem.
I don't know because I mean their fan base is very unique, and it's something I've spent a lot of time studying. Their fan base is absolutely star-driven. The greatest moments in that franchise's history were the time that when they got Correa and when they got Forsberg, they thought that was bigger than the signing of Shea Weber by far.
But Weber is a star.
Weber's a star, but he's their star. It's a little different, So he came from there.
All right, so let's say it's not Weber. Would Yossi be acceptable to Pittsburgh? I'm thinking it wouldn't be.
No, Yossi would be part of it, but Yossi's the beginning of that deal.
Again, and I'm telling you right now, there is no way that David Poile trades Roman Yossi with that cap-friendly deal. I think he's got him locked up for another 3 years at just over $4 million. This is a guy who's a Norris Trophy candidate.
For Evgeny Malkin?
Yes.
Yeah, you can't sit there and say there's no way that he trades Yossi for Evgeny Malkin.
Well, I would say this. They would have to trade Weber because I just don't think they would have 2 big contracts like Malkin and Weber.
Understand that the Weber contract is not big anymore. They've already paid that contract off.
What is left? What's left?
Not much. I mean, the cap hit on they're about I think roughly what they're actually owing him per year. I'd have to look it up, but I know that they paid half of that contract up front. Like the Flyers structured that in a way that they would have to pay half of the contract, the entire contract up front.
Not the Flyers. The Flyers pay other contracts too, but you mean the Penguins?
No, the Flyers. I'm talking about Weber's contract.
Weber, the way they did the Weber.
Yeah. The Flyers set that up with half of his money up front. They thought that would be the thing that killed Nashville. That they couldn't come up with that kind of cash in the beginning. And Nashville just said, well, this is just something we have to do. And at this point, Weber is the biggest bargain in the NHL. And that what makes him hard to trade is the fact that he is such a bargain. They do not pay him a lot right now.
We're still in the portion of that deal that he's making more than his cap hit. His cap hit's 7.8. He's being paid $14 million this year. Now that all but I think $1 million of that is signing bonus.
So it's already been paid.
It's already been paid. But the thing is that the next 2 years he's $12 million, and then it drops in half to $6 million. And then it drops again to $3 million. So it's as it goes along.
Bargain portion yet.
Right.
And when he's making $3 million, he's going to be a hell of a player for $3 million. I mean, so to me, the Predators, the longer they hold him.
Mike, what's on the Malkin deal?
Malkin's at 8, right? 8-9 or something like that.
Malkin is at 9.5 for another.
Right.
No way.
6 years.
There's no way they're putting Malkin and Weber on the books at the same time, even if they could pull off that deal. There's no way.
I am not convinced, and I believe me, I was there with you with the Predators for many years, but I know the new ownership group, and they're very. I think that this is the kind of group that would look at this and be like, "Wow, we get a chance at getting Malkin," and it's a very different kind of ownership group. This is they do very good contracts, and they get bargains all over the map. I mean,
but does Malkin sell out the arena? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I disagree.
He would. I mean, Forsberg.
Forsberg's different. See, here's the thing. Malkin has great numbers. Malkin is a terrific player. He's not the legend that Peter Forsberg was.
No, I'm talking about Philip Forsberg now. I mean, I'm not talking about Philip Forsberg. Sorry. Because Philip Forsberg is already. I mean, they love their stars.
But I don't think he's filling the seats. Nashville still has mediocre attendance, right? Last I looked.
No, it's pretty good actually. It's very good.
Let's see.
I mean,
they're right in the middle of the pack. I mean, they're right.
All right, so in the middle. So does that get them from the middle to the top? Because otherwise, it's not worth it to them to make that deal.
The landscape is set up for a deal like this because you've got Seth Jones coming up on his entry-level deal expiring, so they're going to have to sign him to big money. They've already signed Ekholm long-term. They've got Yossi locked up long-term. They have Ellis locked up for a couple more years. So if they traded Yossi or they traded Weber to get a big forward, that makes sense. Honestly, I think there's more of a likelihood of a deal where, and I'll use Toronto as the example of a Phaneuf and a Kadri for a Malkin than there is
That's not enough.
I know it's not enough. I'm just saying, and then believe me,
that's
the two teams.
Yeah. No, I think that's insane. You have to get back an equally powerful star figure who's still young.
There aren't many like that.
No, I know. That's why I'm saying. Shea Weber is a good name to throw out there. Yes, he does.
Nashville. If you want to go Nashville, Anaheim, I'm not sure there's anybody else.
Yeah.
Does Calgary have the defensemen to put into a deal like this?
No, because that's their captain, and Brody's not at that level yet, and he probably won't be.
Hamilton.
And they're not going to trade.
Just getting dealt too much, so he doesn't have the value right now.
I wonder, does Dougie Hamilton have a big no? I wonder what his no trade clause situation is in that contract he signed.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think with Anaheim, at least you're talking about Cam Fowler, you're talking about bigger names, or even Lindholm. I mean, you're talking about bigger names there and better players. Other than those two teams, I can't think of another team that has. I mean, I can think of one, but I don't. But they can't afford it. I mean, the Rangers are going to lose Yandel after this year. But there's no way Pittsburgh's going to gamble on re-signing Yandel and have him be part of a Malkin deal.
Yeah, and then sign it, and then sending him within the division is not something that.
Right. So that's not going to happen. So not too many teams have a spare star defenseman or even a star defenseman that they're willing to trade.
How about Brett Burns and more from San Jose?
Nah, Phaneuf's not enough. Brett Burns isn't enough.
It's not enough. You would have to get Dan Boyle in his heyday, not Brent Burns.
Right.
I mean,
we've already seen. Okay, we know Marlowe's available.
You know what the funny thing is, Zach? And I don't want to denigrate Malkin, but a guy like Drew Doughty in this NHL is worth more than Evgeny Malkin.
Oh, no question. No, Drew Doughty, in my mind, is one of the top 5 most valuable players in the league. I mean,
and that's the problem is that every team looks at that guy that they have in that role, and probably says, "We'd love to have Malkin, but this guy's more important to our team."
How many defensemen would you not trade for Evgeny Malkin is a good question. I mean, because there are not that.
That's a good question.
I mean, that's like the thought.
I wouldn't trade Subban. I wouldn't trade Duncan Keith. I wouldn't trade Seth. Anybody under the age of 25 who's a top end defenseman. I mean,
I'll give you.
I don't think the Rangers would even trade McDonough, even though it would never go 1-for-1 anyhow. But I don't think McDonough would get included in a deal. No.
I'm buying those. I'm buying those so far. McDonough is on the border. Subban's.
I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't trade Morgan Riley if I were the Leafs.
Oh.
No, even the Leafs, I don't think would trade Morgan Riley because I think you're right. To now replace Morgan Riley would be nearly.
Get Evgeny Malkin.
Evgeny Malkin is how.
So if he calls up right now and says I would have traded Evgeny Malkin straight up for Morgan Riley, you don't think the
No,
Leafs?
of course they'll do that. Yes, they would.
Freaking way, and I'm not saying.
No, they would do it.
They would do
they would do it. There's no.
I don't think they would do it. I don't think
they would do it. But the problem is, Zach, is that most teams will not trade their number 1 or number 2 because they're hard to replace. A guy like Malkin's numbers are not as hard to replace as that number 1 or 2 defenseman.
No, but you're looking at Malkin's numbers as a product of being on the Pittsburgh Penguins, of being a second-line center for the most part. And I am convinced.
I'll count him as a top-line guy.
No, but remember, every time Crosby's been hurt, Malkin's numbers have gone way up.
Right.
I'm going to get crazy with you. If they call Florida, I'm not trading Ekblad for Evgeny Malkin. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it.
No, that's a. All right, there's a lot to think about. That's an interesting one. But
I know, that's why I'm throwing
Florida, they would absolutely. They shouldn't do that. I'm with you, but they would do it. I would say that they would do it because they would.
They might be desperate to win a cup, and they might do it. It would be the wrong move.
It's just such it would be such a PR move. Malkin is a star. I mean, people look at Evgeny Malkin.
I'm not saying that he's not a star, but in the Florida aspect with Ekblad and the Toronto aspect with Riley. Riley's 21 years old. Ekblad's 19 years old. They're both on their entry-level deals. They're both potential number 1 defensemen. Ekblad might be a number 1 defenseman for them already.
Yes.
And Malkin is in his late 20s. He's had a lot of injury problems and is 9.5 against the cap. No, those deals would never happen.
He makes Malkin is 9.5 against the cap because he makes money for you.
I'm not saying he doesn't.
I don't know about that. Outside of Pittsburgh, I'm not sure. In some markets, in L.A., I think he'd make him money. In
New York, he'd make money.
I don't think he would. In New York, he would. In some markets, you would. In Philly, you would. But in the
Islanders? The Islanders have the right defenseman to trade.
The Islanders are not drawing if Evgeny Malkin's there or not. They're not.
Well, no, I agree with you there. But I think that there's
the thing. You want like a reality check because of the cap world. Evgeny Malkin. Now look, he's better than this. He's got 12 points. If I'm Florida, I've got Vinny Trocheck with 13 points, who makes a pittance compared to Evgeny Malkin.
Yeah, but he's not going to make you as much money as Evgeny Malkin's going to make you. And if you're Florida, you're saying
Yager's not making him money.
Oh, yes, he is. Are you crazy? Oh, he's absolutely making the money.
Evgeny Malkin is not going to put 3,000 people in the empty seats at the BB&T Center on a Tuesday night against Winnipeg. That's the problem.
So you're looking at it the wrong. No, I don't. Yager's definitely. There's the reason I've talked to them now. Yager's definitely.
I think they're making more money with Yager than without, but their attendance still stinks.
Right.
Their attendance stinks, but just in jerseys alone, Yager's paid for his contract.
I'm sure there's some fact in that, yeah.
Yager is helping them win. Yager is helping them.
And he's a unique situation, and Malkin would help them. It depends what you want to do. It depends how you want to go with it. There's so many different angles to this, but you have to look at the player for player. Yeah, the Ekblad is the player I'd put on that list. No way.
I will give you the team that Malkin would end up winning a Stanley Cup with, or help win a Stanley Cup with. But the thing is that they would not be able to afford the price that it would cost to trade for Malkin. The Montreal Canadiens. They need a number 1 center, a big body number 1 center, offensively dominant. They could, but they're not going to trade PK Subban.
No. They're not.
They don't have what it takes to.
No, they don't. They don't have what it takes.
Ready, so they don't have what it takes to make the deal.
I don't know what prospects they have defensively, Russ, but they.
Well, Nathan Below is still young enough, and he's not a big enough part of the Canadiens that he could definitely go in a deal, but it's not going to be enough.
Right.
And it could be him. It could be Galchenyuk. But then I think Mike's right. I think in the end they look at that and say, we can't mess with this chemistry. We're already leading the East.
Right.
No, there's no question. I agree with that. I do agree with that, and with Montreal, it becomes different because Montreal doesn't need to sell tickets. It's a different situation than Florida or Nashville.
I can give you a legit team in my head that could make the deal and could back it up with players. And again, it would be in conference.
I have one in the West, but go ahead, Russ.
Okay, it would be the Capitals, because if you threw John Carlson in that deal, you definitely would get the Penguins' attention. You would have the Malkin Ovechkin connection. All of that would work great. Would the Penguins do that? I don't think so.
Kuznetsov and Carlson for Malkin.
Why not?
How about St. Louis?
Wait, so you think the Penguins would deal with the Capitals? You do?
Well, I mean, initially, okay, the obvious answer is no, right? Because these are within the division. But then, even when I said that before about the Rangers within the division, there comes a point at which, players of certain levels, like you say, there are only so many teams they can deal with. So if you've got to move Malkin, I mean, remember Tampa moved St. Louis to the Rangers, and they had to play him. They knew they could end up playing him in the playoffs. I mean, it's a very there's.
Now you could go Malkin for Stamkos straight up. You could.
Yeah, you could, and
that would make sense for both. That would be the same as
it actually would make sense for both
St. Louis thing. That would be similar to that.
And in the Western Conference, the team would be St. Louis. They have Shattenkirk, who they could trade. I don't know how sold they are on the young rookie Parayko, but he's playing really well right now.
St. Louis does have enough pieces to make that deal. I agree.
St. Louis does have enough pieces, but they are sold on Parayko. They wouldn't even trade him right now.
Oh no! What I'm saying is, if they're sold on him, then it makes Shattenkirk more available, because there's a guy that fits into that number 3 behind Bouwmeester and behind Pietrangelo.
Yeah, they, for whatever reason, they're not. They've drawn a very strong line in the sand with Shattenkirk, and they have this sense of what they're willing to pay and what they're not willing to pay with him.
I think Hitchcock would be very unhappy with the deal, but I think Armstrong would make the deal.
It's so hard. I mean, it's hard to turn down a player like this, for teams.
No, so I think St. Louis is legit. I think the Capitals can do it.
Yep.
And I think Tampa could do it. That's it.
Although I don't know if Stamkos would waive the no move to go to Pittsburgh.
He might.
Oh, why wouldn't he? I mean, I think that's a place where he would go, because that's holy cow.
Well, as a way station before free agency, because I'm still.
I don't know. You don't know that.
No, I mean it depends maybe who's coaching the Penguins.
Right. That could be the deciding.
Because I mean he could go there right now and then say, okay, it's a way station for now. But if they bring in a coach he likes, that could change things.
I just think Stamkos is a situation where he wants to win a cup. He wants to win a cup in Tampa. He wants to keep his options open, and then he wants to wait until after the season to see if Tampa will pay him what he thinks he deserves, and if he doesn't, then he tests the market.
Yeah. No, it's a really interesting points. Well, it's a good debate, guys. I like that debate. We didn't get into the Flyers today, which is okay, because there's too much to get into there. Anyway, we'll get into them tomorrow for sure. Before heading down to Simone Gagne night tomorrow night.
Yeah, that'll be fun. The one thing I'll say real quick is fans should not anoint Shane Gostisbehere as the savior. That's not a fair thing to do.
It's not a fair thing to do, but they're doing it anyway. Yeah.
I know.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, he's right now. I mean, he's got good timing as far as.
A little piece of what they're missing, but they're still missing a lot.
Oh, they're missing a ton, and the news today is, of course, Braden Shen has been rumored to be on the move a lot. I mean, that's gotten very intense. And yet today, from what I hear, he's skating on the first line with Giroux and Voracek, after being a healthy scratch. Those kind of things are very strange, Yeah,
that's a strange change. That sounds like we want to see what he looks like up there.
It's a weird message to send.
That sounds like a showcase to me.
It does.
Well, I'll tell you earlier this year, I know I was sitting with you, Russ, when they put them together, and we were talking together in the press box about that line looked good. I mean,
it did look good for that moment. It added the one dynamic that the whole team didn't have. I agree.
Yeah, and Braden Shen is definitely what Raffle does really well. Braden Shen does really well as well, and probably a little bit better than Braden Shen. Although Raffle has probably more consistency than Braden Shen, so Braden Shen has more upside. So. I don't dislike that, but I do think I wonder about the message that's being sent to players when you scratch a guy.
He earned his way up to that line, if that's what you mean.
Right. I mean, and in a way, he has. I mean, he's leading the he's tied with the league in goals, right, with 5. So, I mean, the strange thing about the whole thing, it's just such a weird situation.
Not the right number, but yeah, it's a fact.
I mean, who else? No one else has earned that spot. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of issues there. It's there's a lot more going on. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll definitely get into the Flyers, and we'll definitely get into more stuff as well. But man, fast hour and 20 minutes. Sorry guys, went so long. Remember guys, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will be back here tomorrow. I'll be putting my blog up shortly about this whole Malkin thing. So look for more of that. Without the buzz, did I say it already?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Well, still without the buzz, it's still just hockey. Talk to you later.